We're going to try to.
I've got a new shovel.
Hello. We're going to try to go on and get going.
Thank you.
I know these days are busy and people have to leave here and go to other meetings. So we're going to try to get going. At this time, I'm going to ask Representative Donahue if he wouldn't mind to please open us in a word of prayer. You 22?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Heavenly Father, we come to you and we lift you up. Lord, we praise your name. We thank you for the opportunity together, and while we're here, to keep our minds clear, to be with our families, watch over and protect them as we're away. Lord, we just thank you for everything you do in Jesus' precious name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. All right, we're glad to have a good crowd and got our staff out there. At this time, we're going to move on pretty quickly, but we're going to start off our meeting with the commissioner. He's going to give us our little annual update.
Chairman, members of the committee. First, I want to start off by introducing some other folks that may speak on other bills, but first, I want to introduce some senior staff that are here with me today. I have Walter Rabin. I think most of y'all know Walter. Deputy Commissioner, and we have a new, since last session, Public Affairs Director, and it's Donald Kirkland. So Donald's with us today. And we have Ted, Emily, and Charlie here that may speak on the technical aspects of some of the bills you are here today. First thing I want to bring y'all up to date on is something we're real excited about. We have we're starting this summer, a new Dnr Career Academy, and it's aims at encouraging high school students to explore careers in conservation. Students will have the opportunity to learn about DNR career paths and visit wildlife management areas, hatcheries, state parks, and the coast to gain an understanding of our day-to-day operations and what it's like to be day in and day out a DNR employee. So we're going to start that this summer. We're taking applications now. I know it's hard to give a website address on this. So if you don't get this, ask me after the meeting, but georgiadnr.org/career academy. That's pretty easy. So if you've got some high school students that would be interested, please get them in. We're up to about 150 applications already. Little weekend for wildlife update. We set a new record this year. We raised a little better than $2 million, $2,046,000 to be exact. So we had a wonderful weekend. As you know, that goes to support our conservation section of wildlife resources. Moving on to law enforcement division, we're 184 sworn game wardens. We have 18 cadets that are currently in the Game Warden Academy in Forsyth. They started January the 9th. They'll graduate June 17th, and then they have their 4 months of field training. In addition to performing regular duties, game wardens are currently assisting with the crime suppression unit in Atlanta. This is a collaborative force with the Georgia State Patrol, Georgia Bureau of Investigation, Atlanta Police Department, Fulton County Sheriff's Department, and the city of South Fulton. And of course, the objective is to crack down on criminal activity or illegal street racing in and around Atlanta. There's a lot of stats that go with this. I have them all, but one that sticks out, the running stolen vehicle value that we've confiscated right now is $4,145,500. So over $4 million worth of stolen vehicles. On COVID response, our game wardens have assisted with deliveries of vaccine, medical supplies, and equipment with trucks and helicopters, and provided security for COVID testing and vaccine sites. Storm response, I know this committee knows we're the tip of the spear for storm response. So our game wardens have assisted in DOT brine crews, security assistance to power crews, WRD and WRD debris clearing teams, and of course, we staff the SOC, State Operations Center, during these emergencies. They've really done a great job. As recent as the Northeast Georgia mountains just a couple of weeks ago. So down on the coast, Representative Williams, our oyster mariculture, we have 3 leases. They were let. They were all McIntosh County residents that got those leases. Only one of them has made it through the Corps of Engineers permitting, so they'll be getting ready to put their cages out. The other 2 are still going through the the Corps or the federal permitting. We're set to let 3 new leases in Chatham County in February. And again, these are done by RFP. Shrimp, despite a lower than average October and November, the overall harvest of food shrimp looks to be up by 14%. A dockside value and 14% in dockside value and 7% in pounds landed. 2 shrimp fishery failures of 2013 and 2018 were funded by congressional appropriation, and 1.1 million was distributed to shrimpers in 2021. Also, our shrimpers participated in COVID aid to the fishing industry, and 4.6 million was distributed to our commercial fishermen in 2021. Take that back, commercial fishermen, charter fishermen, and seafood processors that were impacted by COVID. This I'm very proud of. In far as disaster resiliency go, Georgia is the first state to have each of its coastal counties prepared for disaster recovery via the Disaster Recovery and Redevelopment Plan. This was 10 years in the making, and these plans guide recovery and redevelopment after hurricanes, wildfire, or other natural disasters. We have a young lady named Jennifer Klein that worked with all these counties, and we're very proud to know that all our counties have completed that. Habitat enhancements, as you remember, when we got y'all supported us and we were able to get our support fish habitat license plate with the redfish on it. And we had a record year of habitat creation because of those dollars and license plate sales. In total, 7 offshore deployments occurred, including 3 barges, 3 steel vessels, and 1 mixed concrete and metal rubble deployment. And 175 tons of oyster shell was deployed inshore in Glenn County to enhance oysters. It's moving on to state parks and historic sites. I didn't say this at the beginning, but we want to thank the governor for allowing us to stay open. We were the only state of any of our neighbors, I think the only state in the Southeast whose DNR stayed completely open. We stayed open to non-resident, resident hunting, all our boat ramps, all our state parks, and all our wildlife management areas. And state parks saw a big boost from that. We had a 25% increase in visitation. For those of you in the northern part of the state, Cloudland Canyon and some of our border parks, we actually had to get DOT to help us manage traffic in and out during that. The good thing is a lot of those guests are coming back. So Jeff's FY21 numbers, Jeff Counts, the economic impact, total visitation was 14.3 million, economic impact was 1.5 billion, and local jobs supported was over 14,000. In FY21 renovations and constructions, we had 10 cottages replaced at Tougaloo State Park, 10 cottages renovated at Black Rock Mountain State Park, new comfort stations built at Mistletoe State Park, Hamburg State Park, Cloudland Canyon State Park, and Victoria Bryant State Park. Campground renovation at Red Top Mountain State Park, new greens at the Lakes Golf Course and Laurel Walker State Park, and a new group shelter at A.H. Stevens State Park. And we could do none of that without y'all's support in the budget with our bonding package, and we certainly appreciate that. We have another great package that I guess y'all will be voting on tomorrow in the budget. We're going to be we've transitioned George T. Bagby from a lodge park to a traditional state park, and we've got big plans there to increase our visitation as well down at George Bagby. In Wildlife Resources Division, last fiscal year received a record 36.7 million in hunting and fishing license revenue, which was over a 5% increase from the previous year. In FY21, our fisheries management staff produced and stocked over 11 million fish, including largemouth bass, striped bass, hybrid bass, walleye, and trout in over 370 public water bodies across the state. Additionally, the Burton Trout Hatchery was totally renovated, and we're certainly excited about our increased capacity of this facility moving forward. The Urban Wildlife Program continues to do a great job helping citizens in Atlanta and metro counties. They received about 2,500 calls last year. And of course, the majority were related to deer, coyotes, foxes, and raccoons. We worked with state and federal and private partners and GOSA to conserve more than 24,000 acres with the newly created Ceylon Wildlife Management Area in Camden County. Beyond the tremendous wildlife and recreational value, this property also serves as a critical buffer to the King Bay Naval Submarine Base. Over this past year, our private lands program has worked with 595 landowners in 124 counties to help wildlife management activities on 228,371 acres. Additionally, our DMAP program, or Deer Management Assistance Program, continues to grow, and they have enrolled over 146,000 acres with 109 cooperators. That sort of finishes the report of the divisions, but I also want to give Wildlife Resources a big shout out for their role in some of our weather events we have. They are literally the first on the ground. In those instances, as you know, we train with some unique equipment as a state agency, and so we're called in to clear roads. Ted will send out his debris. For instance, in the mountains the other day, we had 6 debris teams up there and clearing roads for the power lines and all that. So all our folks have great day jobs, but I'm real proud of the work they do during hurricanes, winter storms, and those type of things as well. So that concludes my quick DNR 101, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Commissioner, we can't thank you enough. I know y'all have always done a great job and a fabulous job, especially the last year and a half or two. Y'all have been pushed to the max, and we couldn't be more pleased with what you and the department has done. And I think it's really shown that, I mean, we got people coming here from everywhere, and they know what great jewels we have in our state parks and all of our beaches and lakes. And I just want to thank y'all for doing what you do and helping us manage all that stuff. We have a few questions.
Okay.
Emery?
Mr. Commissioner, it's good to see you here today. I need to clear up a rumor, and I figured since you were here, I would ask you direct. When we were in appropriations and you were giving your report, I won't call the gentleman's name, Terry England, but he had made a comment that there was a small buck, 1.5-year-old buck, that was behind your presentation, but really you were hunting in a duck field in Arkansas. I just wanted to know if our IT department's that good that you could get away with the presentation that you did. And I said, well, I'm going to ask to make sure this certain individual wasn't pulling my leg.
No, sir. I was at my office doing the Zoom call, and Walter Raven killed that 1.5-year buck.
Thank
Hope
you,
that
sir.
answers your question.
Yes, sir.
We've got a question online. Roger Bruce. Representative.
Yeah. Commissioner, always good to see you, my friend.
You too.
How is this COVID affected attendance at the parks? And are any of the animals that we have in our state, are any of the animals affected by COVID?
All right, let me start with the first one. We've seen a right at a 25% increase in visitation with parks. A lot of that's attributed to Jeff doing a great job of pivoting to online registration where we didn't have any person-to-person contact early in COVID. But just the fact that we stayed open and our beaches stayed open, visitation, we were getting a lot of our neighbors down, especially in parks like up in Cloudland Canyon. But day use specifically, like Sweetwater and Panola Mountain, some of our big heavy day use parks, they really got crowded. And we've continued to see a lot of the out-of-state folks that came to see us. They're coming back, so that's been good. As far as COVID, I may have to bring a biologist up here. Charlie, you want to try that one? Sure. We were actually talking about this at lunch, so that's a great question.
Bring us good news now.
It's kind of good news. I'm Charlie Kilmaster. I'm the state deer biologist for Georgia. So I'm going to speak more relative to deer because that's what the most work has been done on. Deer can and do get COVID. They spread it amongst themselves, and it doesn't really cause any symptoms. It doesn't negatively impact them at all. But the likelihood of them transmitting it back to humans, I mean, you'd have to be sharing a car ride with a live deer. And, so the, yeah, so I don't think it presents any risk to humans, more so than just a trip to the grocery store right now. So there's always a concern about, the virus evolving, but that can happen in humans or any domestic species. So I don't think there's any more concerns.
Thank you,
Okay,
sir.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
in my note, I failed to introduce somebody else we got with us, but our game wardens are the oldest state-sponsored law enforcement agency in this state. And we have a great colonel, and failed to introduce Colonel Thomas Bernard, who's with us too.
I will have to give you an amen on that one too.
Yes.
Colonel. Thank you, Colonel, very much. Yeah, we can give him a round of applause. Absolutely. He deserves that. Number 19, Representative Petrie.
Yes, I have a couple of questions for you, Commissioner. But first of all, do you support a mask mandate for deer in this state for COVID?
No, sir.
Listen, a couple of questions, Commissioner. First of all, I want to tell you how much it meant. I saw our parks being used so down in my district, Wormslow and Skidaway Island. And I'm going to tell you, the leadership of our governor and yourself to ensure that we, when many were clamoring to close all of our state parks and beaches, but allow people to be outside where they should be at a time like this, be able to get children outside and to exercise. I'm going to tell you, I appreciate it very much. Did want to ask you a question, Commissioner, about our oyster bill implementation. I know we've got our 3 new leases that you alluded to in Chatham County. Is there anything we can do once we're beyond that? I know we've had some delays related to COVID. Is there anything that we can do to expedite the process with the Corps of Engineers? Because I understand there's going to be some pretty lengthy permitting involved there as well. Is there anything we can do to speed that process up in light of some of our delays related to COVID?
Yeah.
Maybe to move forward a little quicker than we might normally?
I would hope that just the place we're at with the pandemic right now, there will be a natural speeding up of other than just corresponding and our staff continuing to push, nudge, or help these applicants along. I'm real excited that we're gonna see some cages in the water soon in McIntosh. It's been a long time coming, but COVID did slow stuff down. So I don't know anything specific other than we're going to keep putting out the RFPs and getting oyster providers and just continue to encourage them to move along with the core process. They are a great partner of ours, and so we'll just keep pushing.
Anything y'all can do, Commissioner. Thank you. Anything you can do to help encourage expediting this process would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Representative Al Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was just keeping a couple of notes. I was glad Representative Bruce asked that question. I was thinking about my freezer is full of venison burgers, so I can leave them in there a little while longer. As far as the Corps of Engineers go, they have a long and notorious history for deliberate speed. My wife worked for them. And when they do something in 5 years, it's considered quick. Yeah, unbelievable. But thank you for coming down to Liberty County and seeing 2 of the best kept secrets in this state, that's Springfield Plantation and Mellon Bluff.
Great day.
I appreciate that. Now, and thank you for the leases down in McIntosh County. It could open the door for something really big as far as our oysters go. I made 2 trips this week to a place that sells McIntosh oysters. Wasn't the prettiest shells in the world, but had the best tasting oysters in the world.
No doubt about it.
Yeah, so thank you for all of that, and thank you for what your people do and what you do. And I speak primarily for the coast because Representative Petrie and I, we're on the Atlantic Ocean, so it's very valuable to us what you do. But I'm really excited about these oyster leases, and we're glad when we get 3 more over in Chatham County. We can think there's a great market waiting to taste Georgia oysters. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Representative. Next question, Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner, thank you for what you do and all of DNR and all of your different divisions. I know it's wide and varied. Charlie he sat down before I could ask him, talking about unless deer could transfer COVID to a human. I'm trying to think, Charlie, wouldn't it be the same? Who's going to be transporting and sitting with a deer in a car or that close in the first place to give a deer COVID? Think about it. But no, and again, that was a joke with Charlie. But Commissioner, you're right. We've seen over the period of COVID, all seriousness, an uptick in the use of not only our parks, but I want to let this committee know, our wildlife management areas, people got back outdoors. They returned to nature, not only in our parks, but on our rivers and our lakes, but also in our WMAs, hunting. I know that we had increased numbers, as proven by license. And that's good. That's an opportunity as we again are been striving to make sure that we pass these heritage, our heritage of hunting and fishing down, and people getting back to nature and doing what we all love to do is great. I just want to make sure that we're putting that back in, and as we see that increased use, and I hope it continues. I know we all do. We want to see everybody out there hunting and fishing and enjoying the great outdoors. What can we do? And are we making sure these resources, and again, you know where I'm going with this, are managed right? Because we've got a lot of land out there, but in order to make it more productive, to carry higher densities of the game that we pursue, good management, and that varies state and species, where it's at, but it's that emphasis, and that's where we want to go. And I know Gosha has been a good tool, but I'm not sure we've utilized it as in that manner. And I want to make sure we're prepared, because something, that first trip, when you have that good trip, guess what you're going to do? You're hooked, you're coming back. So you know what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
And I'm just glad to see Georgians going back and enjoying our great outdoors. And maybe we can help make that experience even better.
And you're exactly right. GOSA has been a great tool. I think we've added about 30,000 acres in the 3 years that we've had GOSA. And we've got other conservation lands in the pipeline that are, Steve is, well, if you don't know, we have a land manager named Steve Friedman, is constantly looking at new areas of high conservation value, and also for hunting and fishing. So we always keep that on the front burner, Mr. Chairman.
But also the management.
And the management, yes, sir. That's what drives it. We can have all the land in the world. We got to have the staff and resources to manage them. So you're exactly right. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Representative Byrd.
Hey,
Mr. Commissioner, nice to see you.
yeah, nice to see you, my old seatmate.
That's
when I was in the
right, we
house.
were. I just want to offer 2 kudos. One, I had an incredible experience at Red Top Mountain with your staff, and I had an incredible tour of everything that's happening, and certainly enjoyed the cottages, how beautiful they are, and you could just move in and stay there. I'm right there on the lake and not go home. And the second one, thank you to all the park rangers that participated in Cherokee County's Ranger Day last year. And it was a nice experience. We had lots of wild game sausages there, and they did a great job showing us what was going on in our state. So thank you for all that you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for inviting us to
Yes.
Park Rangers Day. And you're right about Red Top. It's in a growing part of the state. And that's going to be a property we're going to have to continue to keep up with just the population and visitation there. So.
All right, next question. Roger Bruce has a question.
I'd already asked my question, but since you
Okay,
called me,
all right, you're back.
but since you called me, I do want to ask him something. Did you ever get the video that we did at Sweetwater? I think we sent it to you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right,
Yes, sir.
all right.
And the last thing I'll say, if there are no more questions.
Well, you got one more.
Oh, I'm
Chairman,
sorry.
Chairman Tarvin.
That's why I'm so upset Roger's getting in on my time. Are you calling on me?
Yeah, you're up.
Two or three part question here. Bear population, Northwest Georgia, maybe Johns and Pigeon, don't get into Cohutta. The hunters report sightings of bears. We don't know about them killing. How's that population? And are there any elk in the state of Georgia recently showing up?
I think we've only had, I'm gonna handle the elk thing. We've only had a lady, I think in Clayton, Georgia, 2 years ago that had an elk in her orchard. And I think we verified that, but that's the only one I know of. Yeah, well, you're pretty close, North Carolina. Yeah. And I'm gonna let Ted handle the bear question. There you are.
Yeah, bear populations in North Georgia right now are fairly stable, but certainly increasing in a few areas. So, I mean, it's not alarming to any degree. We do see a cyclic pattern sometimes depending on wintertime mast and other things. But right now, what we see, there's no overall concern for us. We certainly are managing some other issues we see in North Georgia, primarily. I mean, I could talk to Charlie, but with some white-tailed deer declines in that northern region, we have research on that. So we're trying to address that piece of it.
Just to clear up, I wouldn't be alarmed if it were more. I just wondered if it was a growing population, if they did report, if hunters report sightings, any kind of records that don't kill, there's no really no way to know about that.
Just harvest. We're reporting all harvest comes through us, but no sightings. Yeah.
One more quick question, Chairman Petrie.
Got me. Thank you to both of you. So it may be a little premature for this question, but we made some changes with turkey season last year with the advice and wisdom of the department. A lot of people weren't real happy about that. A lot of people I know at any rate, and but we did the right thing. Is there any information yet on the results with those changes that were made last year?
Well, thank you. And we certainly appreciate all those who did support those changes. We think they will make a difference. This will be the first year hunting season where we'll see those changes, with the season structure take place.
Okay, gotcha.
So next year, again, we hope to see some benefit to that. But again, it was a necessary, I think, time for us to step in and make a wise decision there on that.
When y'all
season
learn, I
structure.
guess the better question would have been, as you get information, it'd be good to know, we need to know how these policies impact.
Yes.
So be helpful to know as soon as y'all do have some better understanding.
We got a lot of constituents that will hold me to the fire on that one piece of information. Yep.
One more, this is the last question, then we've got a few measures of business we need to take care of. Larikia.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. After Representative Byrd, I had to get in on the Love Fest and tell you how much we appreciate you. A couple of times this year, I had some small game, some squirrel hunters reach out to me, got in touch with your folks, and they were just, for the second year in a row, they were just very responsive to them. And y'all have got fans and the squirrel and squirrel dog hunters down there for life. I mean, they just love you. But I wanted to mention, since Chairman Petrie mentioned turkey and turkey bag limits, Chairman Corbett has trouble killing any, much less two, and he wants some flex days because he would like to be able to carry over some. And so I'm working with him to at least help him get his bag limit, but if we can't, he would just like to maybe carry a flex day over.
We'll work on that.
I think I'm gonna have to help both of them.
Last thing, Mr. Chairman, y'all, and every House member and every Senate member, you'll be receiving that annual little cheat sheet, shows how many WMAs, how many licensed hunters, how many licensed fishers, how many state parks are in your department. We're just running a little bit behind. And also, we really love having y'all at our state parks, so we'll be giving you your little rear view mirror park pass. So come out and see us when you get those. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for your report. At this time, I'm gonna ask Chairman LaHood if he'll move over in this seat.
All right, Chairman Rhodes is going to present, if you want to start with House Bill 1147.
I'm at your mercy, Mr. Chairman.
All right, well, let's start with 1147.
Okay, let me make sure I'm getting the right one. We got a big stack. Okay, 1147. This bill kind of pigtails off the conversation that we just had about our turkey season. I can tell you, I'm not many things in this world that I love more than turkey hunting. I've been doing it with my dad since I could walk. It's just one thing we've always done together. And I can tell you the last few years, our turkey population in our state, we do not have the number of turkeys that we used to have. And there's multiple reasons for that. I think and as the director just talked about, one of the steps that we need to take in some people's opinion is we've had a boom of population of our critters that like to eat our eggs and basically our nesting animals, our sea turtles, our turkeys and our bobwhite quail. And I just think this is a step that we can take. Right now, you can get a nuisance permit from the department. Many people don't know that, and this just takes that step away from the department and lets the landowner make their own decision. If they're overpopulated, that they can kind of take control of that situation and take care of it on their property. And Mr. Chairman, I mean, I've got some experts behind me if we want to hear some more from them. I mean, but basically what this bill does is it takes away the season and the limits on raccoons and possums, allowing the property owners to take that into their hands and do to their property what they think they need to control that population.
All right, you have a question from Representative Rickia.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, at the proper time, I was just going to move due pass.
Amen.
All right, we have a couple questions we're going to take first, and then we'll go to motions. Thank you. Chairman Tarvin.
Well, this is one of my favorite chairmen here, but not one of my favorite subjects. And I guess I would, Bobcat, I like the way you threw that sea turtle thing in there right at the end. That kind of captured my thought more than the turkey did. But to open the season on something that a lot of people, and I have to respect the department on this, I will. But to take a season that some people consider, not as many as they used to, consider as a game animal, and doing in nature what they do, and that's live in nature and survive. To open a season the year round with no limit, then you get into the deer hunters and the coon hunters, which is not as big a deal as it used to be because there's just not many coon hunters. Thus, we have plenty of coons. And you got a possum who I've always despised, but it's an animal that doesn't harm anyone and doesn't carry rabies or many disease, I don't think. And they're, all kind of rumors that they might be tick eaters. And so are we sure we want to go down the road of doing this? I just, and again, I respect the department highly on this, but this is touchy. I can't vote for it up there where I live because coon hunting all my life, the trap bill like to got me. I mean, it's pretty serious. These people, and I just don't think that they didn't even want to hunt the year round, you know. And I just think hunting with a dog year round is pretty, I guess that's what this would let you do, wouldn't it? Hunt the year round with a dog and shoot coons, and during, you know, deer season, and it's already a problem. It already coexists. So, but I just, in my opinion, I will respect the department, but I don't think this is a good idea.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate your question and your comment, and I respect how you feel. You know, last night I was thinking, I counted 18 of my friends used to coon hunt all the time. That's all they did. And now it's only 2 of them left to coon hunts. You know, people just don't coon hunt anymore. And if we want to bring the department up and you want to hear a little bit about it, we can get Emily to come up here. But what this does, this puts it back on the department. Department can come back in and correct this if they see fit.
I respect that. Let me finish with it. It seems a long time ago when I was 20. But if you had a real good dog in Northwest Georgia, you'd trade 20 coons a year. I can trade 20 a night now almost.
That's correct.
If I had a good dog, but 20 a week would be no problem. There are a lot of coons, and they don't have to come up and talk. If they support this bill, if they say they support this bill,
They do.
thanks, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks for the comments. I'll just throw in a comment that, you know, I'm a property owner and an outdoorsman, a hunter, and I've personally experienced the what I would consider overpopulation of raccoons and possums and armadillos is another one. And I've seen the destruction they can do to you know, other game like turkeys. So we have other questions. Number 22, Representative Donahue, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, and that was part of the question that Chairman Tarbin asked. I'm sure you guys will come back together like a sunset, and if you see that it needs to be changed, you'll make those suggestions. So that's the thing that keeps me comfortable. And we were talking in this discussion the other day with my grandson about a possum we had seen last year. It had like 12 little ones on its back. And he said, "Papa, how many little possums get killed a year? I see them all over the road." And I said, "Well, let's think about this, do the math." And it was a great discussion, but everywhere we go, I'm trapping possums. They're eating my chickens and doing stuff like that, and raccoons. And it seems like I'm going to take care of the nuisance. They have a job to do, but if they're continuously encroaching on my property, I'm going to take care of that. But I really wanted to make sure, and I believe in you guys and what you do, but that we would have some type of a sunset, or at least to review in 5 years or 6 years to come back and say, look, that's actually done great what we're doing, the management process. But again, I'd like to make sure that we keep that, because we're not always sure we're going to have you guys right where we need you the next 5 and 6 years. But thank you very much.
Thank you, Representative Donahue. And now we have Chairman Knight with a question.
Thank you. To my chairman, my friend, you know, we spoke earlier about this, and again, I'm sort of looking at the, you know, again, the wildlife and the sound science behind it. And, you know, that's what our code is based on. And I'm very curious about this, because I hadn't heard of this, and I heard, obviously, as a upland game hunter, I understand the nest predation and the ecosystems, but in all of this of what we've heard in the last couple of years, especially with the turkey, we you know, is you know, especially University of Georgia, I think it's where a lot of our turkey data come from. I had not heard anything in regards to, you know, how the raccoon, you know, nest predation would affect turkeys. And we all know in the ecosystem it is an issue, but to what extent? So I guess I am curious about some of the science here. Because again, we need to make sure that we follow our code, which is sound science. And if it were a problem, I'm just curious, don't we have a lot of other ways in which to do this? In other words, we've got nuisance permits, trapping, other things that we can do. And that was, it just seems we've pretty much taken any restrictions, controls off of this. And that gives a little pause. And you and I may, we've talked about it. And again, very respectful for you and the department, but I did want to share that. And I'm curious why we haven't heard of this from a point of view and from the science and biologist on it. So thank you.
We can get Emily to come up, but I can just tell you this, and I mentioned this to you earlier today. My neighborhood, we don't have that many woods right there. We've got a nice little patch of woods in our neighborhood, and my neighbor and I trapped raccoons. And I can tell you this, we have more poults and turkeys in our neighborhood than I do on my farm down the road. That's a much bigger piece of property than it works. But Emily, do you have anything you'd like to add real quick?
If you want me to.
Sure. Yeah.
I'll just add that we do know that predation is the main issue when it comes to turkey mortality. That's not the root cause of turkey population declines. There are two different sort of mechanisms right there, but and raccoons in particular are probably the top predator of turkey eggs and poults. There's what we don't know is how on a landscape level, if controlling these animals will in fact improve turkey populations. We do know that, on at the property level, if you're doing good habitat management, yes, that can help, especially, we've learned this through managing bobwhite quail for years. We know that predator control in these plantations really does help quail reproduction. So, I just wanted to let you know where the science is on turkey nest predation.
Yep. Could you give us your title with the department?
I'm sorry. I'm Emily Rushton. I'm the state fur bearer and actually turkey biologist for the department.
Okay, thank you. We have, let's see, number 19, Chairman Petrie with a question or comment.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. And I think actually my question was going to be, I wanted to hear from the department. So I think I wanted to understand where the department's position on this measure. To be clear, the department supports this bill. Is that correct?
Yes.
Ms. Rushton?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. And so you're a turkey biologist.
Yes.
Okay. And your understanding is that this is a good measure as policy
Yes.
for Georgia. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we've got another question I want to get to, but another thought that crossed my mind is that I'm recalling a constituent in South Georgia who contacted me, I believe it was last year, who had a really big problem with raccoons. And I called and talked to the department, and they wanted to offer some assistance. But as I recall the conversation going, there was not a whole lot they could recommendations or advice they could give, at least legal advice, because raccoon season was not in, and this gentleman's property was just being overrun by raccoons, and there was nothing he could do about it. The department told him it was illegal to trap them and take them somewhere different, and so without something like this, landowners with that problem, the way I see it, would really have no solution. Representative Fry has a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Appreciate you stepping up to the microphone and talking about, so basically we're solving the problem bouncing off of what Chairman Petrie said, solving the problem of the declining turkey population by this experiment, right? So how long do you think it would take to see the data if this would actually work?
Well, I think the root problem is a habitat issue more than anything. We've, raccoons and possums really exploit those urban and developed habitats, and we've created a lot of very good habitat for them in Georgia recently. And it's really, honestly, it'd be hard to say how long it would take to see an effect, because it just depends so much on how much trapping is happening on a property, how many years they trap. Just there's a lot of factors that go into play.
I saw it in 1 year,
Okay,
one trapping season. Phenomenal difference.
that's a great answer. Mr. Chair, one more question. Y'all, I don't want to sound really foolish or anything, but will this allow me to trap a raccoon that's living in my attic and drop it off across the river? I have taken one during the season a long way away, but this will allow a homeowner to fix that legally all year round.
They can already do it with a permit, but this just
Without a
removes
permit.
the issue of having to get a permit. And you're not, they're
Thank
rabies
you.
vector species, so you're not supposed to move them across county lines, but
It was is right at the edge of
Okay.
Chairman's
I believe you.
district.
I've got a one more comment, then we have another question, and then we're going to entertain any emotions. But I'm curious to hear the department's answer to this. I don't know how often you've had to enforce any action against someone, hunting raccoons outside of season, or if that happens very often. But my guess would be that there's probably a lot of people out there that don't even recognize the dates, and they're going to hunt them year round anyway.
People trapping them illegally out of season. Am I correct? Yeah.
Or do you feel like there's a lot of people trapping and hunting raccoons out of season currently?
Yeah, we still, so for us, just on, thank you. Just on that question there, most of the times that we interact with a coon hunter, if you're asking that specific question, that's when dogs get off a property, and we know how that works. So outside of that, there's not a whole lot of interaction with us on the coon hunting community there.
Okay, well, thank you.
Absolutely.
I think that answered the question. Chairman Petrie, do you have a question, or were you? All right, one more question, then we're going to entertain motion.
And I hate to do this, but I'm going to do it because it does seem to be some disagreement here and some contention. So I'm going to do one last thing. I want to be very clear. So, Mr. Killmaster, I'm going to push you on the spot. You're a biologist as well.
Yes, sir.
Aren't you you're a wildlife biologist, correct? Okay. You fully endorse this measure as in the benefit for policy, for game in this state. You endorse this policy.
I don't see any.
You endorse this measure.
I don't see any biological harm coming from this measure.
Thank you, sir.
All right, now I'll entertain a motion if there is one. Chairman LaRicchia.
Way too many raccoons. I move due pass.
Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, say no. Did our members with us virtually get to vote? Representative Bruce and Dubnik?
Dubnik is aye.
All right, I think the ayes have it, and so this motion will pass.
Yeah, sorry about that. I pushed the wrong button.
Thank you. All right, next we have House Bill 1148, also to be presented by Chairman Rhodes.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a measure that Mr. Killmaster talked about beforehand, and something that we've mentioned for a number of years now, dealing with CWD. And this bill is just basically the department and the state trying to get get in front of this issue and let us be proactive as we can as far as bringing deer in from other states. Basically, in a nutshell, instead of reading through this, basically you would only be able to bring the meat, unless it was a mount or something of that nature. You would only be able to bring meat in, no bones or spinal tissue or any of that from that animal could be brought into the state. And if the expert wants to come up here and just kind of, I'm sure we might have a question or two on that. I sure would love for you to be here to answer those. But Mr. Chairman, that's basically what the bill
Okay,
does.
all right. Just for clarification, will you give us your name and position?
Yes, I'm Charlie Killmaster. I'm the state deer biologist for Georgia.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
So in addition to meat, we do allow capes and antlers to come into that pretty important part. So
I said if it was a mount.
yeah, well, even if it's not fully mounted yet, but clean skull plate. We're mainly trying to avoid the spinal column tissue and brain tissue where the disease is most concentrated in the animal. So we've had this on any CWD positive state since 2005. And all we're doing is with this one is making the change to all states. And one of the reasons for that is for a lot of years, Tennessee was not a CWD positive state. Now we know in hindsight that there was probably a decade or more that they had the disease and didn't know it yet. So this is a measure that every other state except for South Carolina that touches us has already taken. And looking forward, the movement of carcass parts within the state in the unfortunate event that we ever discover chronic wasting disease, it gives the department the ability to manage disease management zone and make sure these potentially infectious carcass parts don't come out of that management zone.
So am I right? This is a proactive measure.
Yes.
This isn't a damage control thing. This is something we're trying to prevent.
Trying to get in front of it.
Right. Okay. We have a few questions, starting with Chairman Knight.
Thank you, Charlie. I know we've had some hard discussions regarding this horrible chronic wasting disease a couple of years ago, and I appreciate the measure. I know not only Tennessee, but as I'm aware, Alabama got it, didn't it?
Alabama and most recently Louisiana, just within the last few weeks.
So again, a very serious issue that could, quite frankly, devastate deer hunting in Georgia if it showed up here.
It's bad news for sure. I don't want to downplay that at all, but it wouldn't be the end of deer hunting. We know a lot about how to manage it, but the best thing we can do is keep it out of here as long as possible. Keep it out of here.
Yeah. Well, no matter how bad it would get, ultimately it would affect the sportsman in some way. Hunting seasons, some areas completely, trying to kill everything we could, which that's not good for our sportsmen at all, and much less the economy and what we contribute to enjoyment again of our citizens getting out, enjoying our great outdoors. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Chairman Petrie.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. And some of my question you just answered, sir, but Mr. Killmaster, I want to ask you, it looks like this is inevitable. I mean, we support this. I support this measure completely, anything we can do, but just to help us all learn. So is it just inevitable? We're going to get it eventually? And if so, help me to understand what that's going to look like.
Okay.
As we adapt to it in Georgia. Could you do that for me?
Yes, sir. The outbreak that is currently in existence in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama, in that kind of area where those states come together, it's likely that over some period of time, which may be decades and decades, that it could eventually spread across Alabama and into Georgia. Thankfully, we've got a lot of things in our favor. I think Alabama's doing a great job in disease management and can help keep that buffer between us. But if and when we get chronic wasting disease, let's say somebody brought in illegally live deer and deposited the disease in our state somewhere, what you would see is a temporary increase in deer harvest in that area through a combination of using landowners and hunters to take more deer for the purpose of establishing where the disease exists on the landscape. So we want to figure out where it is. And once we learn where it is, we keep up that testing and that monitoring. We restrict carcass parts coming out of that. What we do to manage the disease is a more surgical approach where we find a positive animal. We go in that area on that property, and we try to remove just the deer family groups that are might be overlapping that specific area. This idea of like taking a whole county and trying to severely reduce the deer population, that was the initial response in some of the earlier states that got it, and it doesn't really work, and it erodes landowner support. And we've got to have the public support for this. So we take a surgical approach to keep the disease spread minimal and keep the prevalence of the disease where it exists low.
All right, Representative Donahue.
Thank you, sir. I've been privileged to hunt Western Kentucky for the last 15 years, and we went through this year. Seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, a deer was located 12 miles from the Kentucky line, but it was shot 40 miles south of there where it was determined was close to Kentucky. So they set up stations throughout Murray and Callaway and Graves. With that, I know they took the head, took the glands. Have they came back with a report that you have heard of that states that they did find chronic wasting, or is it still, I know they said it'd be right after the first year before they would start knowing the results.
Relative to a deer in Kentucky,
Yes, sir.
presumptive positive, I'm not sure. I have not heard that. In fact, I just met yesterday with my counterpart in Kentucky, and I didn't hear any mention of it. And usually we kind of hear from each other pretty quick on that stuff. So Louisiana was a presumptive positive, and it was confirmed yesterday to me that it was in fact a positive deer, but it wasn't really unexpected. It was found just across the Mississippi River on the Mississippi side from that deer.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. At this time, I'll take a motion, and I believe Representative Corbett.
Make a motion to pass.
All right, any second? Second, all in favor? Or first, anybody opposed? All right, do pass. Oh, online, did we get your vote?
Yeah. Do pass.
All right, very good. Thank you. All right, the last bill on the agenda today is House Bill 1233. Chairman Rhodes.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, real quick, this is just a little housekeeping. A couple of years ago, when we did our license revision, when we were fixing everything with our hunting license, we had ducks, geese, and swans and left doves out. So now we're just putting in migratory birds and pretty much changing the date. That is what the bill does to make it fit all migratory birds. And then we're consolidating our all of our species of bass. We're just consolidating it into one category of black bass. Isn't that correct? Yes. Okay.
So it's my understanding this is a department bill,
Just
this
housekeeping. Yes,
annual
sir.
housekeeping cleanup bill. So any discussion or questions? If not, I'll take a motion.
I do have one comment. I was watching at the bag and size limits. It kind of concerned me when I first read it. I read it wrong. The crappie 0 to 14 inches was off limits. While I first read it, I was worried about my fishing partner. He would never catch illegal fish. But I read that wrong. It's set within those limits.
Yeah. And just for clarification, we are working off a substitute, and it's LC 510108S.
Yes,
And I
just
believe-
make sure that,
Yeah.
that is committee sub, because we forgot something, had to add something to it. You're
Yeah.
correct.
So do I have a motion? All right, motion to do pass a second. We got a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? No? All right, do pass. Thank you.
Mr.
This
Chairman.
meeting is adjourned.